No matter what happens, we just say, what's next? That's all we do. Somebody turn on some damn music.
You're listening to the Gambling Gauchos. Talking Texas Tech, betting on the Big 12 and beyond. We've got everything you need, money lines, memes, and matadors.
Well, you want to quit, Ethan? That'll be the day.
Now, here's Kyle Jacobson and Rob Bro, the Moneyline Matadors, the Casino Cowboys, the Parlay Picadors.
You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. You dig. Win.
The Gambling Gauchos. Oh, and one more thing. It's all West Texas. It always has been.
Welcome into the Gambling Gauchos. I'm Rob Bro. He's Kyle Headboard. Got a new headboard today in the homeland. Comment section's already hot today. We're live in the Cardinals Sports Center studio. You can gear up for baseball season at Cardinals. You can either gear up in person in Lubbock, Texas, or Plano, Texas, or Kyle, online at mycardinalsports.com. So many great options at Cardinals. Little League Baseball starting. We needed to double check to see if we are, in fact, sponsoring another Little League team. I was approached by a coworker. They said, hey, the Gauchos sponsored a Little League team last year. Do y'all want to sponsor our balls? I said, what? He said, our baseballs. We have sponsor opportunities for the ball bucket. And I said, I got to check with my nephew. The White Sox this year might need a sponsor. So I don't know if Kyle and the AL Central hate will be able to abide by that, but we'll see. But if your son or daughter is playing Little League sports, you can gear up for them too at Cardinals Sports Center. Live and in person in Lubbock, Texas, or online, mycardinalsports.com. Kyle, how are you?
Good. We're not sponsoring the White Sox, though.
Yeah, I was wondering if your Twins I thought you were a Rangers fan now.
I am.
Yeah.
I could do Tigers out of the AL Central because of Jace Young.
Yeah.
We can do the White Sox. I only have one request. If we sponsor something, whether it's jersey, ball bucket, something else, I want a version of it with our logo on it.
Okay. Yeah, we need to do that. We should have done that last year with the Dodgers. The Dyers. That would have been cool. We can certainly do that this year. We'll also we might drop some merch sometime.
Getting to know the Gauchos, I actually have a signed, man, I hope I still have this somewhere. Maybe I don't have it anymore. I have a signed 1988 Dodgers World Series baseball.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a little bit of a backstory how I got it. My grandma, a little bit of like an antique collector.
Mm-hmm.
And so she just had this baseball. So she didn't know what it was. And my mom and I, when we got our hands on it, were able to make out enough of the signatures to start Googling some names. I was like, this is the 1988 Dodgers. So anyway, I don't think my grandma would have just handed it over to us had she known. But anyway.
Did you ever check the price on that?
We might have. This was I was like a kid. And that's why I'm struggling to think of where that would even be if I still have it. I've moved a lot since then. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
Is that would you make out Kirk Gibson?
I think that was one of the ones that you could make out.
Fernando Valenzuela?
Yeah.
Hideo Nomo? Those might have been later.
Yeah, Nomo was later. I tried to mimic his his wind up.
Yeah.
And
You got
just
it
couldn't.
turned around.
So cringy. Like it, feels like everybody's like staring at you type thing.
Yeah.
I was it's just so unique. For those who don't know, it's just like a super slow wind up, like his sidestep, and he just like stops completely with his hands over his head. And anyway, I was like, that'd be cool to like imitate Hideo Nomo. I tried to throw submarine. I loved imitating ball players. I used to do the Ichiro. You might not know this, but Ichiro stick his bat out.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to. And
yeah, aim where he's going to
pull up his shirt sleeve. Yeah, he'd pull up his shirt sleeve while he's kind of like pointing the bat. He had the bat straight up. I used to do it. I used to do the bat straight out at the pitcher and pull my sleeve up like Ichiro. And my mom was like, it looks like you're trying to call your shot like Babe Ruth, so you got to quit doing that. I was like, okay, I'll point the bat up. But I was mostly like pointing it straight at the pitcher. I wasn't trying to call my shot or anything.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm going to catch up on some comments. The comment section's hot tonight.
Let's go.
Love the shirt. Kyle looks like such a city boy. I think that's a compliment, right? Rob with a great shirt. Also, Kyle needs a mustache. Kyle, you have a good face for a mustache.
I've had a mustache before.
Yeah, you've had one recently. I think the people want it back.
Yeah.
Nobody likes Ventura. Somebody says Ace Ventura. No, I believe he means Robin Ventura. Delta Mike is an autograph collector. He has a 1964 Yankee team ball with Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle, and other greats like Yogi Berra, DiMaggio, and Ted Williams.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Notorious has a baseball collection from '72 with every American League team signed ball. That's awesome.
Hey, if someone wanted to stream this episode on Twitch and comment live and everything, how would they do that, Rob?
Well, they'd have to join the Patreon, patreon.com/gamblingauchos, and then we will tell you when we're going live on Twitch. And you get to be in the best Texas Tech fan Discord of all time. Darren O'Day with the goat wind up to me, says Big Hen.
I liked Byung Kim Submarine.
Yeah.
He had like the most exaggerated submarine I think I've ever seen. Liked that.
Big Hen says you can join the Discord and have Kyle destroy you in an argument. Y'all were going off today. Let's get into that. We can tell the people what we were talking about. There was has been conference realignment news in the last week. Some sinking ship stuff, in my opinion, from the Pac-12 and the Pac-12 writers. They're now claiming that the ACC is reaching out to the Pac-12, and that is a non-starter because the ACC is not going to open up their grant of rights and have Clemson and Miami and NC State and Virginia Tech all shop to be somewhere else. They're just not going to do it. And ESPN's not going to allow it because they don't want to pay Clemson $50 million in TV revenue when they can pay him $36. It's just a non-starter.
Has anybody credible brought up the ACC thing, or is that like MH Fair?
Mostly him, but everyone just rides with it. So I just wanted to let the people know that was not a legitimate thing.
This is like the third or fourth time the Pac-12 has been like, well, what if we merge with the ACC or have an alliance with it? It's like, no, guys, y'all have been down this road before, and it obviously leads to nowhere.
Absolutely nowhere.
It's a crazy form of denial to like go back to that well for a third or fourth time. Because like, okay, when this first happened, I could kind of maybe see it. Like, okay, yeah, both coasts, inventory all day. It's like clearly the answer was no, and then they like went back to it, and I guess they're maybe circling back again. I don't know, but
Kyle, do you know who Jim Abbott is?
Yeah, one-armed pitcher.
Delta Mike says he always got in trouble for trying to imitate Jim Abbott. That's what I was laughing at. I guess he pitched with his glove in his armpit or something. Did you see the ambidextrous pitcher? Did I bring that up on the last pod?
I think you put that in a group text, but I didn't watch it.
He throws 97 with one arm and 92 with the other. Goes back and forth. That is incredible.
So does he do it for like certain pitches or just based on wherever the batter?
Based on the batter.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I think you have to stay one arm when you start an at bat or something. Maybe not.
That's an interesting wrinkle to switch hitting. Can a switch hitter change boxes mid at bat?
I don't know if you can mid at bat. There was one time a batter went up there with, the intention to bat left-handed, and the pitcher switched his gloves, so he switched before the first pitch. There was kind of a stalemate where both of them were just switching back and forth.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that ends. You can't switch mid at bat, they say. The chat knows.
Wasn't the first switch hitter like basically joking around?
Probably.
I think I saw like an ESPN short on that one time. I could be way off here. Maybe but I think some guy for the Orioles in like the 70s, they were winning by like 12. What?
Like a bet?
Yeah, they were winning by like 12 runs late in the game, and so he was like, "Hey, Skip, I want to like try to bat left-handed." He was like, "Okay," and he like got a hit, and then I think he realized like I can hit from both. Like if I practice at this, I can hit from both sides, and then it became more of a not trend because it's been here ever since. But I think they like kind of stumbled upon the first switch hitter, like it wasn't a designed thing.
Interesting.
Or maybe that's completely wrong, and I don't remember anything.
This question, when y'all were run ruling teams, did y'all's coach ever give you the green light for everyone to switch hit? I was never on a team that was run ruling anybody.
Yeah, I think I gave up baseball at an early enough age before anybody was switch hitting. Like I don't think I played into high school.
I retired after 4th grade.
Yeah.
I played 1 year of kid pitch, and this redheaded kid pitched with his eyes closed, and it terrified me. He would just close his eyes and throw the ball as hard as he could.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to conference realignment. I know you have a lot of thoughts on it. I am so tired of it that I just get so frustrated. Like today on the Rob Bro show, KKM 11 to 1. Oh, that's the Raiderland 1 to 2. I'm on 2 shows, no big deal. And this guy was like out of nowhere, was like, "Oh, if anybody wants to have more money, why would you not go to the SEC? Because they have more money and that it makes you better." It's like, how many times do we have to have this conversation that TV money does not make you better, and you can just have a rich athletic department without TV money because of boosters and other avenues. And if money made you better, Texas would have won a Big 12 championship in the last decade because they have the richest athletic department in the world. Not just in college athletics, just like period. They have the richest athletics department of anyone.
Yeah. I mean, I would love for Texas Tech to get more money, but you're 4-0 in your last 4 against SEC and future SEC schools. Is that sustainable over like 5 straight seasons? Probably not. But yeah, like Rutgers, Vanderbilt, Indiana, they suck.
Yeah, Maryland, Illinois.
They're about to get even more money. Like there's already a gap. It's about to widen, and they're still going to suck. Somebody in the SEC has to lose when they get to conference play. So these teams are going to be making $100 million, and LSU or Florida or Texas, somebody's going to go 8-4. Like you have to. So I think the gap will not be so insurmountable that you're already doing it. Kansas State's already doing it.
Yeah.
Teams like Kansas State, Iowa State have already punched up at OU and Texas for the last decade in the Big 12. So would I rather be making twice as much? Sure, but I don't think it's just this death sentence as a program.
Now, I do think there's a certain number you need to be at to be a competitive college football program. And I think the Big 12 is at that number, if not approaching that number. But the difference between the Big 12 and the SEC is so much different than the Pac-12 and the Big 12, because the Pac-12 as of now, has not reached that kind of minimum threshold that I think the Big 12 has surpassed. What are your thoughts on the March deadline that was reported earlier this week, where basically the Pac-12 schools allegedly have said if Kliavkov doesn't come up with something by March, they're basically going to take it into their own hands and figure it out themselves?
It doesn't seem great for the conference. I think really, I think generally speaking, self-imposed deadlines are probably not great, especially when you're trying to negotiate on what's otherwise an open timeline. Like when you publicize that, you're telling any interested parties, if there are any, Amazon, Apple, ESPN, basically saying like, if you can play hardball with us through March, then we're going to be in an even tougher spot and like lose more negotiating power. Now they're clearly late to the party as is, and so that's where I'm kind of like, what does it matter if it happens in 1 month or 2 months, or 2 months? You know, they lost their spot in line to the Big 12. They've clearly conceded some bargaining power over the months as they've dragged on, and so I don't. It's kind of one of those things like, how did that even get publicized? I just don't see the benefit to publishing that information, and so that part, if I were part of the Pac-12 in that circle, I'd be concerned as to like, what the heck is going on here.
Certainly felt like a leak. Mr. Root says that's a bad look for Kliavkov if the schools take over. It's a bad look for Kliavkov already.
Well,
He
what
looked bad. And again, I don't really blame Kliavkov for all the missteps, because the initial reporting after Texas and Oklahoma were leaving was that Kliavkov wanted to go expand. And Stanford and Cal, and depending on who you talk to, USC and UCLA said no. Apparently, USC and UCLA had some long-term plans there that they just didn't want to get ruined. But
Yep.
Allegedly, it was the school presidents, the university presidents, that told Kliavkov not to expand, and he's got saddled with that burden. So, I have a hard time blaming Kliavkov. He is in an impossible position. Impossible.
Well, and I don't even know what that looks like when the presidents or ADs or chancellors say like, well, we're going to take over after March. Like, presidents have never negotiated a TV deal before. Like, that's the commissioner's job. And so that you're opening up an entire can of worms there. I can't believe, Rob, that we're still, I guess I can and I can't, because the Pac-12 clearly is just in denial in so many ways. Do you remember when Yormark was hired and I read you a fake quote from Lawrence Skuvenek on the podcast?
Yes.
It was the boilerplate. It was the way we've talked about college athletics up until the last couple of years of like ensuring student athlete success on and off the field and blah, blah, blah. Like, well, that's not really how things are anymore. These schools in the Big Ten, SEC are making $100 million a year. The athletes are sometimes millionaires through NIL. There's transfer portal. And pretty much everybody has acknowledged that, even the Big 12. Now, I don't think Bob Bowlesby was ready to acknowledge that, but Yormark certainly is. He's like all about, we're going to be on the cutting edge. We're going to promote ourselves, future landscape of college athletics. He gets it. And the Pac-12 is so desperate and just detached from reality. They're like literally still talking about academics as if that, and I know it quote unquote matters to the university presidents. They want to be affiliated with Stanford. I get that. It's like, hey, the other four conferences in the Power Five are all doing whatever's in their best interest to make the most money and position themselves for success, like in between the lines on the football field. And Utah is like, well, we're not going to come to the Big 12 because academics. And so it's like, okay, just if that's what you want to sign up for, then do it. The other four conferences are just going to move on without you, I guess. And y'all can pat yourselves on the back about research dollars if you want. It's a little bit shocking that they can't read the room a little bit better than that. Not even a year ago, 2 years ago, they would have been late to recognizing the shifting landscape of college athletics. But the fact that that's their fallback now of like, well, we know we could get more visibility, more money, more stability in the Big 12, but, the academics. It's like, okay, we'll have fun sitting next to Stanford, I guess. That doesn't matter in sports. it might make your university president feel better. And so if that's the sword y'all want to fall on, then do it.
I understand not directing your university based on athletics, but aligning your athletics department in a new conference doesn't affect the academics at all to me. Is there weight in the academic world to say you graduated from a Pac-12 university?
Probably.
Or is there weight to say you graduated from Stanford?
I think it's so it's the SEC deal that like A&M fans and Ole Miss fans do. They're basically proud of teams that they're associated with, Alabama, Georgia, kicking ass. And so if I go get a degree from Arizona, like it's a perfectly fine institution. They're like, yeah, we're in the Pac-12 with Stanford. I think it's that same kind of mentality.
Arizona, though? I mean, maybe Utah, who is new to the program, maybe Cal. It feels like Oregon does not operate that way, and it feels like the Arizona schools don't operate that way. But they do, and Arizona State in particular, which I've always seen and heard as a party school. Their university president has been one of the most outspoken about remaining in the Pac-12 and remaining in good academic standing and all that BS. Okay, like see you later. And what another thing? Iowa State was AAU for a long time. Yes, and they recently lost it.
I don't know.
So they recently lost status, and I think it's because they were doing less research-based study and more like action-based study or something. Some kind of line where they were doing more medical testing or whatever and less research. They lost AAU capacity. I don't know exactly how that works, but
it's just it's crazy to me that like 15, 20 years ago, sure, academics was like legitimately a big part of this. It's part of why the Pac-16 broke up. Was the Stanfords and USCs and Cals were like, yeah, Tech and Oklahoma State, and like, okay, fair, whatever. But we live in a world now, Rob, where UCLA and Rutgers are in the same conference. And I don't mean that as an academic shot at either school, but it's like clearly geography, like all that is out the window. It is all about the almighty dollar. And if you understand that and you work within those confines, then you can maximize your income every year as an athletic department. If you don't and you go the old way and say, oh, we're going to, academics, at least we're going to chemistry class with Stanford, then okay, fine. If that's what you prioritize, great. You're going to be behind everybody else. And that's clearly what the institutions are looking at. They're staring down the barrel of less money than the Big 12, less visibility if they're on all Apple or half Amazon, half ESPN. And their only saving grace is, well, at least we have the Pac-12 name. At least we're in the same conference as Stanford. Okay, great. Have at it.
And if they want Stanford to take the lead on this, it only hurts because Stanford is one of those athletic departments that doesn't need the TV money. And they're trying to cut sports, but they have like a $2 billion endowment for athletics.
Yes.
Like they don't need, like Oregon State needs a TV deal. The Arizona schools need TV deals. In the same way that Texas Tech needs a TV deal, probably. But Texas doesn't. Texas could go independent.
Right.
And make the same amount of money, or at least have money. So I really don't understand why Stanford doesn't go independent. It seems like that's what they want to do. And they could play Notre Dame and USC and whoever else every year, and it would be fine.
I think long term, I do think the Pac will stay together, sign a deal, a crappy deal for the next 6 years or whatever. I think long term, Oregon and Washington are going to be part of whatever the college sports landscape looks like, where there's an in crowd, you have a seat at the table. Oregon and Washington are going to be there. Absolutely. Probably the Arizonas, Utah, and Colorado will be as well. Whether that's in the Big 12, Big 10, something else, I don't know. Oregon State, Washington State, maybe not. I think Stanford and Cal long term will be either independent and have like a scheduling alliance with USC, UCLA so that they don't have to do as much travel out of the state. Or maybe Stanford goes Big Ten as a pair with Notre Dame at some point. So, yeah, I think those schools, they don't care if they only get $24 million from Apple, and they have no visibility. Like, they don't really need it as much as Oregon State. Stanford has the Stanford name.
Yeah.
They'll align with Notre Dame. They can go independent, so it's less crucial for them, which is why I think they're fine to be like, well, we don't care if we make less money than the Big 12 because like we already have it in reserves. We have this endowment.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised more like the Colorados, Arizonas of the world that they're not trying really hard to get to the Big 12.
When earlier when we mentioned the schools taking it in their own hands, I really don't think that's when I read that, I read the schools are going to leave. Like the school like that's what taking it in their own hands means. Not getting a TV deal, but creating their own destiny. And that would mean the Arizona schools at the very least leaving and coming to the Big 12 or wherever else.
Here's another thought that a question that I would pose to everybody in the Pac 12 that isn't Stanford, Oregon, and Washington. And the question is this: when has it ever worked out for any university, any athletic department to hitch their wagon to somebody else? Like everybody in the remaining Big 12 got screwed by Texas and OU.
Right. When has it worked out for somebody doing the hitching?
Right. For a Texas Tech, for example, to say, well, we're just going to go wherever Texas goes.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, nod, nod. Okay, you thought that, and then they went to the SEC without you. And then the entire Pac-12, when USC and UCLA said, no, we don't need to expand. We don't need to get any Big 12 teams. They said, okay, yeah, we'll just do whatever you say. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Please, sir, may I have another? And then they leave. And I feel like we're doing the same thing. Utah, Arizona say, like, well, we want to stick with Oregon and Washington. Okay, like they're not going to go to the Big Ten as soon as they have an opportunity. And so if I was your Mark, I'd be playing hardball. I'd be saying, like, y'all might think you can just come to the Big 12 whenever this collapses, whether it's in a year, 6 years, 10 years. Like, this is your only invitation. And make them sweat a little and think, like, okay, let's go to the Big 12 now, have a forever home, or risk him being serious about that. And because you could leave them out. Like, you have no obligation to go save Colorado and Utah once Oregon and Washington leave or Stanford leaves. So I would that's how I would do it if I was you. I'd like, hey, you have an invitation right now, and in 5 years when Oregon and Washington leave, that offer is no longer on the table. Make them think really twice if they want less money, less visibility, less stability, just so they can rub shoulders with Oregon and Stanford. That's how I would play it.
Chase says it's worked out for Rutgers and Maryland.
They didn't hitch their wagon.
Yeah, anymore. They left. They did the opposite. They jumped ship and went to Maryland. Didn't hitch their wagon to Duke or Clemson and stay in the ACC. They got out and they saw what the ACC was going to get, and they saw a better future in the Big Ten and jumped. So
A&M.
Yeah,
A&M got out of UT's shadow and
Nebraska.
Yeah.
So, and again, it doesn't work every time. Colorado certainly has proven that it doesn't work every time, but it certainly does feel like schools that leave are in a better position now. Now, most of them have gone to the SEC and the Big Ten, and those are the two conferences that we kind of say are high points, but
I'm just saying it didn't benefit anybody in the remaining Pac-12 to sit idly by and let USC and UCLA call the shots.
Right.
And none of those institutions have learned their lesson because they're just letting Oregon and Washington do the exact same thing now, and it's probably going to end up equally bad for them.
Root says, look at Stephen F. Austin. UT Nacogdoches.
Oof.
Chase gets to a comment I was just about to ask you your opinion on. What do you guys think about the rumor Oregon and Washington are being offered more money in the Big 12 than the rest of the Big 12 to come over? I want to change it because I don't think that'll happen. But would you, Kyle, if you were Brett Yormark, offer Oregon some concessions to allow them to leave after 2 or 4 years with a small penalty if the Big Ten calls?
Yeah.
I would too. I would not do uneven distribution, but I would offer them outs after 2 and 4.
What I would do is say, if you leave, you're part of the Big 10, Big 12 challenge for a decade or, make it so that it's beneficial for you long term. If it's not cash, that whoever's in the remaining Big 12 at that point, assuming if you take Oregon and Washington, you also get the Arizonas or whoever, say, like, you can go to the Big 10, you owe us a little bit of cash, and then Oregon, you're playing Arizona or Utah or Colorado or Texas Tech for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's going to be on our networks. We're going to get money for it.
And you have to pay us $50 million over the next 25 years or something. Yeah. So, like something ridiculous.
Because if you get Oregon and Washington, the Pac-12 is absolutely done.
Yeah.
And you've very much solidified yourself as the third strongest conference, giving yourself a ton of stability. And you always have to be thinking one decade ahead in conference realignment. And 1 decade from now, you're in a position to poach ACC leftovers. The Big Ten will take whatever 2 they want. The SEC will take whatever 2 they want. Then you can get the 5th, 6th, 7th best teams from the ACC if you want them.
In the next round, which is in potentially 13 years.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be in 36.
But clearly you have to think ahead like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that the Big 12 has not done, and that's why they're in the position they are now. 2 years ago, they did do some forward thinking and got UCF and BYU and Cincinnati and Houston, which we've discussed that at length, and I don't think we need to get into that again right now, but I do think there were some benefits to doing that, and obviously you're in a better position than the Pac-12 right now because of it. Big Hen says, I don't want any schools that don't want to stay in the Big 12, then kick Kansas out, because they talk about it all the time.
Or West Virginia. They want to be in the ACC, which makes sense for them, but it's all business.
Right.
And so it's a good business venture, even if it's only temporary for you to have Oregon and Washington. Those would be the 2 biggest programs in your conference. You take them. Now, you don't there's a point where, like, you don't make all these concessions. Like, you get to play every game at home. You get twice as much money as everybody else. Like, you draw the line somewhere, but yeah.
The kid's calling Yormark to kick Kansas out. I like where the Big 12 is.
Can I say something related to what you just said?
That I like where the Big 12 is?
No, your point before that.
Yeah.
About relitigating the additions of the 4 teams.
Uh-huh.
The Pac-12 is obviously considering SMU, and so this notion that they won't add a religious school, I think that was the case when they could be more selective. But you're telling me they would take SMU but not BYU if BYU wasn't in the Big 12? Or that they'll take a tiny private school with, no viewership, no alumni base just because they're in Dallas, but they wouldn't do the same thing for the University of Houston in the city of Houston? I didn't love the addition of Houston, but those would be the 2 teams I think, had you not expanded or had you taken Cincinnati and UCF only for whatever reason, the Pac-12 would have shored things up by not adding San Diego State, not adding SMU. They probably would have plucked BYU and Houston.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. They clearly have dropped the no religious affiliation deal if they're willing to add SMU. And so if they're willing to add SMU, BYU is 10 times more valuable. And so those were defensive plays, I think, in hindsight. And I don't think they knew the demise of the Pac-12 was coming when they made those additions. But had you not added BYU and Houston specifically, I feel like those 2 programs would just be served up on a platter for the Pac-12 right now, get them back to 12 teams after USC and UCLA leave, and they're in a much stronger position than they are right now.
If Oregon and Washington come to the Big 12, are they the top programs in the conference?
Yeah.
Or Oregon would be. Oregon would be the marquee program, and you could sell it like that.
Washington has, I think, 2 college football playoff appearances, maybe just 1. They have a history. I think they won a national championship in the 90s, which would be much more recently than anybody else in the Big 12 has won a national championship. I think you might be underselling Washington a little bit. They'd have the largest stadium in the new Big 12.
The remaining Big 12, I got you.
Yeah.
I was like, no, Big 12 teams have won the national championship. It is Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That's tough. Oregon also, baseball, basketball, some strong programs, softball.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously their track and field would fit nicely in what the Big 12 does. They have also the affiliation with Nike, I think, can't be undersold. Somebody mentioned in the comments earlier the Nike movie looks good. The trailer is star-studded. I will say that. Have you seen the trailer?
Yes.
Pretty good. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, the boys, all together.
Do I get to explain my chess move theory, my out of the box strategy that nobody's gonna like, but I think might be worth a shot?
Is this something you had? Why are you asking me if you? Yes, you can explain it. I don't. Was this brought up earlier that I missed, or?
It was in the Discord all day.
Oh yeah, I didn't read that thread. That was one of those too long. Sorry if that happened to you, or congratulations kind of moments
Yeah.
for me.
So
it was like 10 minutes late, and there were paragraphs that I did not catch up on.
here's what I would consider doing if I'm Brett Yormark.
Okay.
I call Oregon State and Washington State. Yeah, close your ears, Big Hen. You're not going to like this. I call Oregon State and Washington State.
Uh-huh.
Those are only two schools that I call, and I offer them membership in the Big 12. So you'll make more money here, more stability. Like, there's no Oregon and Washington to leave you high and dry in a few years. The Big 12, now those programs in and of themselves are not huge draws. They're not huge markets, none of that. But they play in the Pacific time zone, and that is huge. If you want to read about the impact that has playing in the fourth window, the After Dark window, read the TV data that we've compiled on Patreon. It's compelling stuff. It's the only thing that makes the Pac-12 somewhat valuable to the TV networks, is them being able to play at 10:30 Eastern time when nobody else can. So at the very least, you get two schools in the Pacific time zone. You could play Big 12 After Dark, which, by the way, anytime a Big 12 team or BYU has played a Pac-12 team in the After Dark slot, it overperforms Pac-12 on Pac-12 action. So that's number one. Now, if they accept, which I think they might be likely to do, considering they're the two most vulnerable programs in the Pac-12, the dominoes start to fall. Suddenly they have 8 teams. That's not enough to add San Diego State and SMU and be like, yeah, we're still a Power 5 conference. Once those dominoes fall, then you get the other ones that you really want. The valuable programs, the Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Arizona State. I'd be fine. If 18 is the cap, I'd be fine rolling the dice with Oregon State and Washington State to get what I call the Big Four, the Arizonas, Oregon, and Washington, and leaving Colorado and Utah out of it. Partly because their fans are way too snobby for me. Partly because if this is what it takes to knock over the house of cards, so to speak, then I'm for it. I think you would make Oregon State and Washington State really consider in a way that the Arizonas, Oregon, and Washington don't really have to think about the Big 12 invite too hard right now. They seem pretty content to stay in the Pac-12, whereas Oregon State and Washington State might be the ones that you're most attractive to. And so I say do that, get into the Pacific time zone, and that is probably the most likely way to act as a catalyst to get these other dominoes that you really want to fall. And I think it's worth a shot.
Is 18 the cap or 16?
I think if you're the first conference in 4 time zones, I think you can go 18. You would have a manageable amount of inventory in every time slot, and you have differentiators, right? You say we're the first conference to 18. We're the first conference in all 4 time zones. We're going to add Gonzaga as basketball only and have by far the best basketball conference in the country. And now they have, by the way, if that theory works, Oregon State, Washington State accept, and that ultimately brings Oregon and UW with them after the Pac-12 no longer can survive. Now you have 4 schools in the Pacific Northwest with Gonzaga. You totally mitigate their travel concerns. And that's not even getting into if you can get Utah, Colorado, Arizona State to join. And so it makes that move, the basketball move, make a lot more sense too.
But wouldn't that just be the conference of 12 with a Pac-12 division and a Big 12 division?
More or less, just, without.
Why not just merge?
Because they don't want to merge.
Yeah. Well, they talked about it. Apparently, Klykov came begging and said, "Hey, if you let these people keep jobs, then we'll do it.
Only according to MH Ver,
Yeah. I
which
said
I'm
allegedly.
not sold on that guy.
I said allegedly.
But yeah, a merger would be. I mean, I don't think Stanford and Cal would come. This is the scenario where they would just go independent and have a scheduling alliance with the SoCal schools, Notre Dame, whatever. But if that's what it takes, if you have to take Oregon State and Washington State, which, by the way, I like their fan bases probably more than any other Pac-12 school besides the Arizonas.
Yeah.
If it takes, okay, we have to get the two not-so-valuable programs to get the 2, 4, 6 that we really want, I think that's a deal worth making. And I also see a lot of Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State in those two schools. They're not geographic fits per se, but I think they're culture fits. Those are public schools with decent enrollments, decent alumni bases. They're, they're probably both the land grant school of Washington and Oregon. I think it would make sense here.
In a vacuum, Washington State and Oregon State make absolute sense for the Big 12. But if I could only add 2 schools, they would be the last 2 I would add.
I agree.
Besides Stanford and Cal.
Yeah.
Stanford and Cal.
Yeah.
If I could only add 2, it would be Oregon and Arizona. After that would be Arizona State and Washington. Obviously, those are mixing up pairs. But if I could just go cold-blooded assassin and add them one at a time, I would add Oregon first and then Arizona. Those are the 2 most valuable to me. And then move on with their pairs. And again, Colorado, Utah don't really care anymore. If the Arizona schools, Oregon, Washington, and Oregon State and Washington State were in the Big 12 tomorrow, I would be happy. I don't really want to get to 18 because I still hold out the hope that NC State and Miami and Florida State and whoever else might be available in the future. And I don't want to cap it early and then have the Big Ten and the SEC just have free reign on the ACC once that explodes.
One more thought. Brett Yormark has made it very clear he wants to plant some sort of a flag in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
We agree on that from everything we've read, all the perception.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Now, he's floated the idea of adding UNLV, which I think you and I were both not so high on.
Yeah.
So I'm also viewing this as an alternative to having to maybe add UNLV. And here's why.
Can I guess?
Sure, yeah.
Play neutral sites with Washington State in Las Vegas?
If it makes sense, yeah. I think schools like Washington State, Oregon State could play a team like Oklahoma State, Baylor. Well, maybe not Baylor. I don't know if their fan base would eat up Vegas as much as Texas Tech.
Texas Tech would, yeah.
Like Houston, and have 3 or 4 Big 12 games in Las Vegas every year. And okay, it's hard for Gonzaga to go all the way across the country and back all the time. Have them play a Saturday in Las Vegas and then a Monday in Las Vegas. Is that doable?
Yeah. I mean, you could be the first conference with multi-team invitational with conference games. You could play a Las Vegas Big 12 tournament in the middle of the year and get 4 or 5 Big 12 games in early in conference play in Vegas. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Imagine if the NCAA would allow you to do this. Like, you remember the COVID season when certain teams were with all the cancellations and the scheduling adjustments, certain teams were more motivated to play to help their resume. I think the one I'm really thinking of is BYU and Coastal Carolina. We're trying to vie for that Group of 5 spot in the New Year's Six. What about the same concept with teams that are on the bubble for the NCAA tournament? Say hey, the 4 of you that are closest, y'all are going to play a round robin in Vegas to get all of you more quad 1 games because that'll be a neutral site. Imagine if Tech and West Virginia and Oklahoma State got to play a round robin where they just play each other one more time in Vegas with pretty high stakes. If you win, you get another quad 1 win.
Win though.
Hmm?
During the Big 12 tournament?
or like at the end of the regular season, like you build in some flex to the schedule and say like, hey, 2 weeks before the end of the regular season, we're going to assign everybody 2 more games. It sounds out of the box, but like if you said, okay, it makes sense for Kansas to not jeopardize their 1 seed status. You're going to play OU one more time. We're going to send 3 teams to Vegas to play a round robin on a Saturday and then a Monday, or whatever. I don't know. I'm all for getting creative with stuff like that. As you know, with a bunch of teams, I'm for pods and playing a +1 for the conference championship. I think that helps not only generate revenue for your conference championship game with viewership, but it also might create more at-large spots in a 12-team playoff. If your 4 best teams in the conference are playing high-quality opponents at the end of the season, they're having the opportunity to hopefully play themselves into an at-large bid in a 12-team football playoff.
Yeah, and if you did that, if you saved the final week of the season for that, if you played 8 conference games and then said the 9th conference slot is going to be, you 8 teams will have home games this year, you 8 teams will have road games, and we'll match you up that way. You could theoretically do that. It might get a little mixy, and you probably couldn't do a true semifinal that way because people want guaranteed home games. And you're not going to take away a home game to go play in Vegas in football. You would in basketball probably, but you wouldn't in football. But yeah, I think a lot of that makes sense, and it doesn't have to be Vegas either. I think there are a lot of venues in the Big 12, especially between here and Oregon, that would work. Kansas City, lots of places in California that would be kind of middle of the road or at least equidistant.
I get frustrated with people, though, who just view all this stuff in like absolutes and like certain stuff is just off the table for them. And I know some of the stuff I just tossed out there, people are going to be like, what the heck are you talking about? That's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
But I just think in the world you're in now, like you have to be creative. You're not just going to magically catch up to the SEC and Big Ten. And like we're weighing alternatives and trade-offs. If Yormark is so obsessed with Las Vegas that he's either going to add UNLV or play neutral site games in Las Vegas, well, give me Oregon State and Las Vegas. And so you're saying like, well, they're not going to want to give up a football home game. Okay, well, we all do things that we don't want to do sometimes if it's in ultimately our best interest. Like I don't want to mow the lawn in July, but I have to. So if it's UNLV or a neutral site game in Las Vegas, give me that. But some people are just like, they don't want this, they don't want that, they don't want to do anything, but they magically like don't want to get left behind in the new college athletics landscape either.
Yeah, but I also don't think it has to be UNLV or play in Vegas. Like
I'm just saying if that's the trade-off.
Right.
Like if Yormark is so obsessed with Vegas that it's going to be one or the other, we're going to play neutral site games in Vegas or we're going to have a team in Las Vegas, then like those are your 2 options.
Yeah, but I think, again, you can play basketball and baseball games. And is there a baseball park in Las Vegas?
They're building one, I think.
Yeah. So you can do that. You could play the Big 12 tournaments there. You could rotate them in. They're going to be rotating through Oklahoma City and Arlington in baseball. And I guess for the foreseeable future, they're going to be at Kansas City for the basketball tournament. But I don't know, I think there are ways to get to Vegas. I don't like everything you just went through, but I don't have to. And I respect your ingenuity.
I just like that Yormark, and these are just ideas I'm talking. I'm not like sold on any of this. I would just want to like explore the economics of it.
Right.
And that's what I like about Yormark is nothing's off the table. Now that doesn't mean all his ideas are good ones. It doesn't mean that always being creative is a good. Like just because you're doing something different than everybody else doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea.
Right.
But he at least seems like the kind of guy who would approach Gonzaga about basketball only, which clearly Bowlesby was never interested in, or we would have heard about it by now.
Right.
And so I just like that Yormark is at least looking into, like he sees the value of Las Vegas, whether that's doing conference tournaments there, maybe adding UNLV, whatever. I think we're in good hands there. That he's trying to be innovative.
Right. Big Hen says you could send Kansas State and Iowa State to play in Vegas tomorrow and it would be sold out.
I would go to that.
What about our conference makes geographical sense as it is? Middle America. Well, not with UCF in West Virginia, but you know what I mean. You could just hire a guy to mow your lawn. City boy can't mow his lawn in the summer.
Who would pay somebody to mow their lawn?
Oh man. Neutral site games at Arrowhead. Yes. The Big 12 championship should be at Arrowhead. Not every year, but they should work that in.
It used to be.
Yeah. Let's see. You ready to move on for a second?
I have one more thought.
Okay.
The main reason why these schools from the West Coast should want to join the Big 12 is so that they can come to Lubbock and get some Rahino barbecue. I don't know what they eat out there, cod or whatever, but goodness gracious, guys, come get some real food. Okay, we got good Tex-Mex. We have really good barbecue, and you can kind of get a mix of both of those out at Rahino if you want.
Yes, you can.
So if we have any Pac-12 listeners and you're like, oh, the academics in the Big 12, let us get you some brisket. It'll put your mind at ease. You won't care about any academics or any of that. Or if we see you in Vegas, we'll bring some Rahino barbecue to you, and you can try it there. RahinoBBQ.com. Order ahead because the lines do get long because everybody loves them so much. Give them a follow at RahinoBBQ on socials. And thank you to Rahino Barbecue for your support of the Gambling Gauchos.
Big Hen says, what a segue. That's why Kyle is my goat. Hashtag my goat. Big Hen, buddy. It's SEGUE segue. It's not the little scooter. It's not the little scooter thing you ride on. Big Hen says Kyle is the smartest, most handsome, most hardworking man in America.
Is that like the brand?
Yeah, the brand, the Gauchos brand. Hey, speaking of
well, Rob coughs up a lung there.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Oh,
speaking of Rahino, if you are partaking in Lent or Ash Wednesday or any activities that have to do with not eating meat on Fridays, Fish Friday at Rahino Barbecue.
How about that?
So there you go. So if you're partaking in Lent and can't eat brisket on Friday, you can go to Fish Friday at Rahino Barbecue.
I'm done talking about the Oregon State chess move. I've made my case. If somebody has looked at, and I'm not even talking to Big Hen, I'm talking to whoever's going to listen to this and like blast me for it on Twitter. Why do you want Oregon State? Like, well, I explained it. I have my reasoning. I have a crap ton of TV data and everything on Patreon. Go look at it or don't. I've made my case. You don't have to agree with me. That's all. Big Hen doesn't agree with me. That's okay. I still love Big Hen. So,
of course.
Or maybe Big Hen hates me. I don't know.
No, he just said he loved you.
I think he's being sarcastic.
Oh, you can't just take a compliment for its face value. You have to ascribe something to it.
That's a lot of psychoanalysis there, Rob. I was just, in this one instance, saying that I thought he might be sarcastic.
We're not asking them to California or Lubbock. Just play one game there every 4 years and make some TV money.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. The football facility, the Womble facility, put out some renderings today. I did want to say two things. First thing, if they ever wear red helmets with a white double T, I will riot. It was in the renderings, in the locker room. It was on the lockers. It was a red helmet with a white double T, like the white basketball uniforms with red double T on them. And I know it's just a rendering, but if those are ever used, I will riot.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
Do you remember which baseball uniforms the Red Raiders wore on Monday?
Those look good.
They had solid red hats with white double T's on them. Is it okay in one sport but not another, or like what's the differentiator there? Yeah, that one. If the helmet was like that, would you be for it? If it was old school double T?
No, but this has like black outlines and looks good.
Okay, so how about this? A red helmet, black face mask, black stripe, white old school double T.
No, it was a white 3D double T.
I know, but I'm asking you if, because you were like, if they ever wear a red helmet with a white double T, I'm asking if it was designed a little bit different, would you be down with a concept that looks like the baseball lid? Or no? It's okay if you're not. I'm just trying to clarify.
I'm a black helmet purist. I think Texas Tech should wear black helmets.
Okay, I love that. I am too.
So no, I would not. I don't like red, and especially because I think it'd be with like. I mean, if they did them like the baseball jerseys and it was like off-white uniform, then no, I really wouldn't like it. Are you fighting back a yawn? What are you doing over there? Like clenching your teeth.
I'm picking at a blister on my foot. You asked. I wasn't trying to make.
I thought you were looking at the TV. I thought you were looking at the TV,
No,
gritting your teeth at something. I have a blister on my finger, but I wouldn't pick it.
I'll move the camera more straight ahead so that it doesn't look like I'm so distracted.
Yeah, or you could just not do that for now and then just do it later. But hey, to each its own. The other rendering that I liked was the walkthrough portion of the facility. With the screen up there, Ariel Schaefer putting out on Twitter that the coaching staff said that was now took off the camera so I could pick a blister. Oh my God. The walkthrough facility where you can put the alignments of the other team up on the screen and quickly run through different formations. Yeah. R.I.P. Kyle. City boy catching blisters in his Oxfords. I thought Kyle was rewatching the end of the Lady Raider game yesterday. Go wash your hands, Kyle. That blister's about to die. Yeah, that's all. Those are great comments. All right. Kyle, that's all I had on the football facility. If you had any other points, you can give them. If not, we'll move on to the Discord mailbag. Did you bite it off?
No. I kind of botched it, though. It did not go super well.
Did you rip the extra skin off? Man, blisters, you can start ripping the skin off a blister. And then when you get a little into the fresh area, that is painful. Is that what happened?
No comment. Hey, do you want to talk Davis Webb a little bit?
I would like to move on from this, yes.
Davis Webb?
Yeah. Denver Broncos coach.
Yeah. Did they say 28 years old?
Let's see. He was a college freshman in 2013.
Coaching 34-year-old Russell Wilson.
That is pretty hilarious.
He must have a just brilliant football mind that he's that highly thought of in the industry. And we know he was before this offseason, too. He's like, no, I want to play one more year. So, anyway, I kind of wanted him to keep playing. I thought he was a really good backup quarterback and kind of balled out a little bit against the Eagles in that last regular season game. And just, he's young, he's healthy. I wanted him to keep playing. But maybe coaching is where his real passion is, and he had a really good opportunity to do that he didn't want to pass up. So, good for him.
Yes, good for him. I'm sure Kyle was making a great point there. He's frozen. I'm not going to say he's frozen. I'm not going to tell him he's frozen. He knows he's frozen. Yep, there he is. He's coming back. All right, how you doing, Kyle?
As noted by Ben Golan with Red Raider Sports, he's going to go up against Patrick Mahomes twice a year, at least 3 times if they make the playoffs together or something. So, anyway, that's an interesting dynamic to all this. Also interesting that he's with a quarterback that Denver sold the farm for and then sucked with last year. So, I mean, Russell Wilson, I don't think just got bad at football overnight. He's a good quarterback, but I don't know what their deal was last season. So he's in an interesting spot. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs on Russell Wilson in the Denver office next season. So we'll see how it goes for him.
Well, when Davis Webb was with the Bills, they wanted him to be a coach. He decided to move on to the Giants to play one more season, like you alluded to. I'm sure you talked about all this when you were frozen, but the Bills were really high on Davis Webb, And if Davis Webb doesn't do any technique coaching or whatever else with Russell Wilson and just game plans and does books and helps the DBs and the quarterbacks, I think it's worth it. And if that's what he wants to do, if that's what he wants to get into, you could go to a worse franchise than the Broncos. I'm not a big fan of where they are right now, but you could certainly go to a poverty franchise like the Cardinals and really be in a bad position.
Yeah, which their head coach, I think everybody already said this on Twitter, but they hired Michael Scott.
Yeah, Adam Gase.
Good luck. And I'll say this too for Davis Webb. Being a quarterback's coach in the NFL lately has been a very quick avenue to being an offensive coordinator if you're good at it.
Yeah.
I think that was what Kevin Stefanski did. And then, of course, if you're a coordinator and you're good on that side of the ball, you're going to have an opportunity to be a head coach. So I don't know. He might be in the fast lane for some of that if he does a good job, of course. That's a big if because the NFL is just so tough. But if you told me 6 years from now that he's an NFL head coach, I would say that's not crazy. If he spends 2 or 3 years as a good quarterback coach and he gets an OC job because of that and does a good job, I mean, he could totally be on that path.
Kyle, are you going to go to an Arlington Renegades game?
I don't know what an Arlington Renegade is, so probably not.
CXFL?
Yep.
Colin Schooler?
I do like Colin Schooler.
Well, he's a Renegade. Are you ready for the Diversified Mailbag? Diversified Lenders Mailbag?
Yes.
Brought to you by Diversified Lenders. I'm going to read most of these tonight. The mailbag went off the rails a little bit today. Well, hand up, partly my fault, but we'll get into them. Do you picture a scenario where Daniel Bacho plays on Saturday?
I guess. I mean, didn't Adams basically say he's like questionable?
Yeah, I would say probably not.
But I mean, the way that was worded was just like.
Do you want him to play on Saturday?
Yeah. If he's healthy.
Yeah. If you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself? Should I say that like Harry Carey? Hi.
Next question. What is that?
It's a Harry Carey quote. If you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself? Hi.
Next.
If the moon was made of spare ribs, would you eat them? I would. Heck, I'd have seconds. Start bench cut Batman villains. Penguin, Two-Face, Joker.
Starting Joker. Absolutely. I guess bench Two-Face cut Penguin.
Kyle's not amused, the commenter says.
Are you starting Joker? Did you know, Rob, sometimes you do the Discord mailbag like it's an interview of me and you don't answer some of them?
Yeah, a lot of times I do that, yeah.
You should answer all the questions just like
okay.
I do.
All right. I mean, you could read some questions and then I could answer them.
I can't because if I exit this app that we're on.
Laptop, man. Hey, I
have a laptop.
I saw a refurbished MacBook for like $300 today.
No.
Do you want to send that link?
I have a MacBook.
Well, your wife does.
Yeah.
But you could you could both have one.
Yeah, we're about to live together again, so it's all good.
Oh, let's see. I would start Joker and bench Penguin. Danny DeVito's Penguin.
Start bench cut Jokers. Joaquin Phoenix, Heath Ledger, Jack Nicholson.
Start Heath Ledger, bench Jack Nicholson. Cut Mark Hamill. The cartoon Joker. He's got the best laugh.
I'm looking at a Joker right now.
Start bench cut Ski Resort, Ski Apache, Taos, Red River. Have you ever been skiing?
I've only been skiing at Ski Apache, so I'm starting that, and I don't know about the other two.
I've never been skiing. Does that surprise you?
Do you want to getting to know the gauchos on skiing?
Yeah, I would love one.
My youth pastor, I've referenced him before. Big Red Raider. He helped kind of like teach me how to be a Tech fan growing up. But he's like, so when he was at school in Lubbock, he would go to Ruidoso like every other weekend during ski season. So he's like an expert skier. He can do like black diamonds, and so I'm skiing with my church youth group, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, like blues aren't that hard. Like we'll start you off on a blue, you'll be fine." I was like, "Okay." So like my first time ever skiing, I'm at the top of this blue, and I start going down. I have no idea how to stop, and so he's like yelling. He's like, "Stop!" So, and I was like, "I can't." And he was like, "Then just fall down." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Fall down." I was like, "No, like that might hurt. Like I'm not falling down." And so he comes. He's like, he's behind me. Just like speeds up and literally just tackles me because it was the only way that I was going to stop before like running into people, buildings, whatever at the bottom of the slope. And so after that, after he tackles me and he's like, "You okay?" I was like, "Yeah." And we like stand up, brush ourselves off, find our skis. He goes, "Yeah, maybe we'll start you off on a green." It's like, "Yeah, maybe that's a good idea since I've literally never done this before."
You have a good rest of the day?
Yeah, mostly.
No more tackling?
Skiing, you can learn pretty quick, I think. And then once you learn it, it sticks with you.
Like riding a bike?
Yeah.
Bill Walton's kid says, hot dog? I don't know why. Start bench cut Ruidoso Casino, Windstar, and Shreveport. I guess Ruidoso Casino, is that in the Mountain Gods?
Yeah. They're in the correct order. Star Ruidoso, bench Windstar, cut Shreveport.
Big Hen feels bullied today, and he's going to cut my life into pieces.
Big Hen feels bullied.
Yeah, he does. Well, I added that to the comment. Now Ryan says no hot dog. I don't know what you're talking about, Bill. Or Luke. Should Texas Tech basketball, men or women, considering playing one non-conference game a year in nearby cities like Canyon, Midland, Wichita Falls, or even San Angelo?
The men's team did that.
Yeah, they did in Midland.
I think that's right.
And maybe Canyon even.
I don't remember that one.
Well, they played
Canyon definitely has the facility for it. I guess Midland does if you've played there. I liked the game they did at the old Coliseum.
Yes.
Of course, that's no longer doable. Yeah, I don't really know where else you would go. If you want to, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. It depends who you play. You couldn't do a Power 5 game. I mean, you could, and it would just be packed.
No, but if you wanted to meet like New Mexico in Canyon or something, that'd probably be fine.
I'm in. Start bench cut Jersey Mike's Firehouse Subway.
Been a while since I was at Firehouse. I'll start Jersey Mike's, bench Firehouse, cut Subway.
Same. Can I be that guy? I
Yeah.
would start Jimmy John's. It's freaky fast.
People have very different opinions on Jimmy John's. It's either a love or hate thing.
Yeah, I love it. I like the unwich too. The lettuce wrap. Once went to Subway coming home on a road trip in grippy socks. How high do you think you could kick a fully cooked rotisserie chicken and it still be mostly intact?
Like landing on the ground, or like I catch it after it?
Whatever you think would keep it mostly intact.
I could probably as high as I could kick it into the air. I could keep it intact if I can catch it. So I don't know what that'd be, like 20 feet in the air.
You don't think it would explode on contact with your foot?
No. Well,
I think
maybe.
I could kick it face high.
I'm having trouble deciphering mostly intact. Like, how much destruction are we talking here while still qualifying as mostly intact?
Well, let's say it's 20 ounces and you keep 80% of the chicken. Like, no, you lose no legs. Said a stroke.
I didn't know you were talking about if you lose.
Yeah. If you Lose no limbs is what I was trying to say, I think.
I could go above face high for sure.
Would you hacky sack it or punt it?
I think you'd want to go side of the foot to maximize surface area. So
Chase wants to DoorDash you a chicken so you can do it. Can we do this for content? Next time you're in Lubbock, we'll go to Costco and get they're cheap. They're big too. They're probably robust enough to punt. Would Kyle or Bacho have a higher vertical right now?
Back in my prime, I had a pretty big vertical.
Yeah, well, right now though.
I don't know.
Are you in your prime?
No.
After one full recruiting cycle of Texas, do I need to answer that one too? I would say Bacho. After one full recruiting cycle, what percentage of the football team will be from Texas? Over under 95%. Under because you have a strong pipeline from Louisiana.
Yeah.
Probably pretty close to 85 though. I would say it's a really high percentage.
I think 75 or 80.
Yeah. Have to count that up. Of course, are we talking scholarships or are we talking total roster?
Right. I would guess most of the walk-ons, like even more of the walk-ons, are from Texas.
Right. If you're talking about 100 players or 110, what is it, 125? How many people can you have on a roster?
110, I think.
Scholarships.
Or is it 85 plus 25?
Something like that. And there was some, revisions and blanket waivers that they did for a couple of years. Yeah. These are questions you don't have to answer, but have been asked. So you can just say, you could plead the fifth or answer. What is the hardest drug you've done?
I really don't have much of a history with drugs at all.
Yeah. So what, weed?
The
hardest drug you've done?
Yeah, I mean, unless like prescription counts. But no, I've not done any.
Were they prescribed to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like that's still a drug, technically.
Then no, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
I don't even think I've ever been issued like anything for pain or like anesthesia or anything.
I plead the fifth.
I'm super lame.
What is the worst crime you've committed?
I think I admitted to it on the last pod.
Impersonating an officer?
Yeah, allegedly, maybe. I don't know.
Have you ever stolen anything?
Not from a store. The only thing I can remember stealing was in college. There's like an animal skull. I think like a small deer.
Yeah.
And it was like sitting on top of this guy's fence. And I just thought it looked cool and was like dared to go like grab it and run off with it. So yeah, I took somebody's property, but I don't think I've ever stolen anything from like a store or a restaurant or like from a friend's house. Did you ever do that? Like,
no, I would never steal my friend's belongings.
Well, like temporary, like steal a video game so you could play it and then like,
oh,
dude, I took your video game a week ago.
Yeah. Maybe like a DVD.
Yeah.
Well, back to interviewing Kyle and not answering. I don't want to incriminate myself.
But if you did incriminate yourself, you could just call Barnett, Howard, and Williams if you allegedly incriminated yourself.
Kyle stole Rob's heart, Mr. Russo.
Oh, wow. That's deep.
If I called you at 1:30 a.m., would you bring me my firearm?
It would depend on the circumstances.
Let's say I asked for a girl's number and her boyfriend got mad at me.
I would probably not in that circumstance. I would say maybe you need to cool off.
Yeah.
And I'll bring you your firearm some other time.
Okay.
But if you said like the situation and I trusted that, like, then yeah.
You two living together is the content we want. No, I don't think us two living together would go well.
Why is that?
What do you mean? Why is that? I don't think you would like me as a roommate. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I think I could
You're
handle
just saying
you.
that to cover your bases because it sounded like you wouldn't like having me as a roommate.
No, I love roommates. I do like living alone. But for the sake of content, I would do that. I think you would get short with me before I got short with you.
You would do anything with content or for content, wouldn't you?
Cream, baby. Content rules everything around me. Rob could be Kyle's nanny.
Mm,
I
I
don't.
really don't know about that.
No, I'm good with kids. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm not a
You
kid
don't know about
though.
that. What?
I'm not a kid though.
No, I could be like your family's nanny, I think is what it was. Like your au pair. I could be
Oh, an au pair,
yeah.
a bro pair.
Yeah. I'm good with
That'd be
babies.
hilarious. Yeah, you can move in with us and be the bro pair if you want.
Sure. All right.
I probably need to ask my wife, but I'm surely she'd have no problem with it.
I think she's at least tolerable of me.
Yeah.
We hung out once.
Top golf or
Yeah.
four golf.
Oh yeah, 4 golf in Lubbock.
Yeah.
No free outs. Speaking of your wife, have you ever cheated on a significant other?
No. I've only had like 3 real girlfriends though, like including my current wife.
Yeah.
So, not that I ever would have, but I didn't exactly have like a ton of opportunity either.
Right. No, I have not either. I was talking to a woman online for like 6 months, and we were talking like on the phone a lot, and it was weird. She was just calling me like in her car, and then come to find out she was married. So
I mean, if you
I'm
count
not my significant other, but somebody else has.
the fact that I'm married to my wife and married to the game, then yeah. But that's about it.
There you go. Have you ever had a gas station tell you their bathrooms are closed, so you just go around the back and do the deed on the store? This feels like a very specific question that maybe has just happened to the guy who questioned it. Asked it.
Have you ever been in Austin, Texas in June of 2021 after a long night at the bar? Definitely, I mean, I think all guys have done some form of public urination. I don't know about that specific instance, though. Probably not.
Chase says 3 right now, including your wife, or 3 total?
3 total. Like, I had a high school girlfriend, a college girlfriend, and now I'm married.
She's your girlfriend and your wife? All right.
Yeah.
Maddie wants us to start over. He missed the first hour.
Yeah, typical.
Chase is telling Maddie that he's missed you popping a blister. I'm sure that will go over well. I hope that gets memed. May or may not.
Do you want to see the blister or no?
No, I don't. Please. I have.
I'll put it in the Discord.
Okay, good.
So for only $5 a month.
Game day threads. Are you selling feet pics at that point?
More or less, yeah.
If you're promising feet action in the Discord, Maddie got here at a good time. He's a Bigfoot guy.
A Bigfoot guy.
Do you know who else is a Bigfoot guy? Micah Parsons has really leaned into that lately.
What?
Just in an interview, they asked him like something innocuous, and he was like, "Oh, I love feet," and they were like, "What?" And then at the thing, Bill Walton's kid needs to tell us about this. He was at the ticket stock or whatever, and they were like taking each other's socks off and playing with each other's feet up on the stage. It was crazy.
Do you remember the Rex Ryan foot video?
Yeah, where his wife's feet were hanging out the car door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember that was when he was with the Jets and Welker was with the Patriots? Do you remember that interview that Welker did? Or it was like a media availability, and they're like asking him questions. He's like doing all these foot puns. He's like, yeah, we just got to do what coach says, be good little foot soldiers and stick to the game plan. Like, we got to stay on our toes. And he does it like 4 or 5 times, and somebody noticed and like clipped it together. It was right after that video came out. It was like, that is so perfect. Yeah, put your best foot forward.
You got to be where your feet are.
I'm going to dig that up. That was hilarious.
Have you ever shot a man in Reno just to watch him die? I don't know why I said that like Christopher Walken. Too high. I was
Just watch him die.
That was the worst Christopher Walken I've ever seen.
All right, let's hear yours. Say, have you ever shot a man in Reno just to watch him die like Christopher Walken? Have you ever shot a man in Reno just to watch him die?
That was so good. That was so good. I can't top it. I couldn't top it. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Did you see my follow-up question to that?
Yes, you did another lyric. If they freed you from this prison, if the railroad train were yours, would you move it on a little farther down the line? Oh man.
I really want to hear your Christopher Walken now.
Oh my god. Rob's laugh sounds like a dying duck. Getting to know the Gauchos. One time I was at the park in about 5th grade, and I coughed like that. And this gang of geese, I must have insulted their mother or something. They chased me across the park, and I had to dive into my mom's minivan. They had like opened up the side door, and I dove in, and they shut it, and like a bunch of geese hit the door. It's crazy. Gaggle of geese. Sorry, I don't know that I can't. I don't know if I can do a Christopher Walken.
You have to.
Okay. Getting to know the Gauchos. One time I did a pep rally or a devotional. One of the two. I went to a Christian school. They're all the same. And did the two mice in a bucket of cream speech from Catch Me If You Can. Catch Me If You Can.
Not familiar.
You never seen Catch Me If You Can?
Nope.
It's Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks.
Never heard of it.
Okay. So Christopher Walken doing Johnny Cash. I just
Do you want me to turn my camera off?
You're like doing a Russian Christopher Walken. Have you ever shot a man in Reno? No, I can't do it either. Mine is worse than yours. Oh man, I can only do Christopher Walken doing Christopher Walken, like, stab him in the neck with a soldering iron. 2 mice in a bucket of cream. Oh man, what appendage would you chop off first if you had to dismember a body? What? I see now that they were making fun of Maddie when they asked that. That was not a real question. Do you want to answer? What? Okay, all right. Plead the fifth on that one as well.
Did you enjoy dissecting animals in like high school science class?
Enjoy is an odd way to phrase it. No.
Like scientifically.
I enjoyed learning. Yes.
What all did you dissect?
We did a frog.
Yeah, we did that.
I don't.
Did you do a rat or a cat?
I was gonna say some kind of mouse or rat. We didn't do a cat. Did you dissect a cat?
Yeah.
Did they just find a dead cat, or did they kill a cat for you?
I think they were like feral cats. That one was a little bit. Honestly, the larger the animal, the more like eh. Like the frog was, you know.
At your high school?
Yeah.
They just didn't want to pay for dissecting animals, so they just found feral cats?
I guess, yeah.
Is that a thing that a lot of high schools do?
I don't know. And
I've never heard of that.
I think I did a squid in college. But yeah, I thought I was gonna hate it because I'm not good with like guts and gore and
Lots
all
of
that.
cats. Big hint.
But I actually didn't mind it. I was like, it's okay.
Come on, man. I bet he was, though. A fetal pig. Yeah, we did a pig.
We did a pig. Yeah.
That seems familiar. I don't think we did cats, though. And a sheep's head. Somebody did a sheep's head.
We never did that.
No.
You're imagining a cat, though, that, like...
I didn't do them until college.
You're imagining a cat that, like, comes with a card that says, like, hi, my name is Callie. I was so-and-so's cat, and then they slaughtered me for your science class. These are like stray cats. Not that their lives are any less valuable.
Yeah, I was about to say. That's an indictment on your thoughts on a lot of things.
No, it's not. Because I just clarified.
You don't like homeless people either?
You want to know getting to know the gauchos?
This doesn't feel good.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I do. I always do.
I was walking across the street this morning, and this homeless person was threatening to beat my ass.
Yeah. I
was like, okay, he's like an old man.
As a homeless, I have had a lot of encounters with homeless people. I worked at a soup kitchen for about a year and a half. Quit soon after I was threatened with a gun in my face. Come to find out it was a BB gun, but
still not great.
Yeah, not a big deal. I stepped in front of it because there were lots of people in there, and I'm a hero. But
there's another homeless guy who told me he liked my shoes.
Oh, I'm sure you have nice shoes. The same shoes that gave you a blister?
No, yesterday's shoes.
Are you sockless?
No, they're just new shoes, and they're still getting worn in. And I walked a lot today.
Is it on your heel or on the sole?
Yeah, inside of the heel.
Okay. Yeah, that's tough.
Oh, I think I'll make it.
Okay. All right. Why are the DFW picadors, Kyle included, refusing to have a Texas Tech TCU watch party?
I didn't know we were refusing to have a watch party.
All right. TCU watch party this weekend with Kyle?
No, I won't be in Fort Worth this weekend.
So you are refusing?
No, I'm just not going to do it.
You going to be in Lubbock?
Yeah.
Oh. Let me scroll here. This is where we got into some things that you have to join the Discord to talk about. Broncos country. Maddie wants to come on the show.
No.
No?
No.
I thought he could.
Nope.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You don't want any of the picadors on the show, or?
Oh, I didn't say that. You said Maddie.
Just Mateo?
Not just Mateo, but that's the one you brought up.
Power rank the picadors you would not want on the program, and then give me one that you would want on the program.
4 that I would not want is Jonesy, Root, Maddie, and Big Hen. I think anybody else could probably come on.
Okay. Shots fired at Jonesy.
I'm just returning fire.
Okay.
Is that okay? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, I asked you.
No, this is always how it goes.
What?
I'm a good guy. I'm a nice guy. As soon as I return fire, Kyle's being real mean and aggressive. No.
I didn't say that.
If y'all want to take shots, then I'll return fire.
We did talk about having Chase on to talk track and field.
Chase is definitely welcome on. Even though he might have been subtweeting me all basketball season. That's okay.
Which series? I did notice that the other day. Which series would you recommend for a Lubbock trip? Oklahoma State, TCU, or Oklahoma? I'm assuming these are baseball.
Probably TCU at this juncture. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the Big 12. I think OU is going to underwhelm a little bit relative to expectations. If I would start bench cutting those 3, I would start TCU, bench Oklahoma State, cut Oklahoma.
Same. All right. That's it.
We're going to talk baseball at all?
Yeah. Texas Tech, number 24 in the country, host Western Illinois. I have a question for you. It's a trivia question that I do not know the answer to. Is Illinois the only state Illinois the only state that has all four corners represented by directional schools? They have Northern Illinois, Southern Illinois, Eastern Illinois, and Western Illinois. Is there another state that has all four corners?
Texas.
Texas has North Texas. They have a Southern Texas University.
We have Texas Southern, West Texas A&M, and East Texas Baptist.
Okay. It's not quite the same, but yes. Sure.
Florida has South Florida, Central Florida, North Florida.
Michigan has Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan,
Central Michigan.
and Central Michigan. Do they have a North or South?
Which Florida is probably too narrow to have an East or a West.
East Carolina, North Carolina.
Those are states.
South
though.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I guess it's
West
not South Carolina.
Virginia and West Virginia.
Yeah. I know Arizona has Northern Arizona.
Yeah.
I
think that's it. I think that's the only 3 public schools they have there, which is crazy.
Wow.
For a state that size.
Wow.
Owen
Wilson. Kentucky has every direction but south. There's no Southern Kentucky.
That's a good one. Western Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky. Northern Kentucky, the Norse. That's you played them in the tournament.
Yeah. I would not have pulled that.
That was the only time I have heard of Northern Kentucky, and I haven't heard of them since then.
I think Illinois is one of, if not the only state that has truly 4 directional schools. Louisiana, I feel like, might. But they have like northwestern Louisiana and southern Louisiana and
Southeast.
Yeah.
I think they have
Southeastern Louisiana. They just have some strange ones.
Yeah.
Anyways, I thought that was an interesting tidbit because I hadn't heard of Western Illinois until they were on the baseball schedule.
Isn't that where Tony Romo went to school?
No, Tony Romo went to Eastern Illinois.
Gotcha.
And there's another NFL quarterback that went to Eastern Illinois.
Garoppolo?
Jimmy G.
Quarterback U.
That's right. This is the Brooks Wallace Memorial Classic. The series will be played in the honor of former Red Raider player coach Brooks Wallace, who died tragically at the age of 27. There's no an award named after him, the best shortstop in college baseball. The starters for the weekend have been announced: Brendan Gurton, Tabor Fast, Mason Molina, and Bo Blessy. I cannot read. Anyways, those 4 starters. And then, yes?
I find that interesting.
That there's already movement in the rotation?
Yeah.
I think that was planned, though. I think they wanted to get 6 or 7 early in the season. Tabor Fast pitched well this weekend. Brendan Gurton obviously basically had a start in relief.
Yeah, 6 innings.
I think they had planned to pitch him in the first game anyways, but
I'll say the first series, of course, small sample size, but Molina and Blessy looked really good.
Yeah.
Molina looked really good at the end of last season, so that was no surprise. Keith Patrick warned us about Bo Blessy. So you're and that's like, if you don't count Gurton as a starter, which he is starting this week, but you've got 2 out of 3 that look really solid. If you can find a third weekend starter and have like 3 absolute dudes, that's sort of been how you've had success over the last decade or so. And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you were trotting out guys that were all really good. That's before we even get to this lineup, which I do want to get to in a minute. But, I think it's a numbers game. At least 1 or 2 of guys like Parrish, Robinson, excuse me.
Robinson, yeah.
Parrish, Robinson, Gurton, 1 or 2 of these guys are going to pan out. Right. And it would be an absolute luxury if you had a 4th dude that was just as good as your weekend starters on the midweek, one that helps you win some midweek games, but more importantly in the postseason when maybe you need a 4th game in a regional or in Omaha. that goes a long way. So I'm excited to see how the pitching rotation shakes out. Early returns makes it look like you already have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Gurton, Molina, Blessy, respectively. But you may have even more options than that you can work through. So I thought it was a really good series out of the gate.
Yeah, against I thought a good team that was competitive, but you just looked really good. And
Dude,
a lot of times early in the season, Texas Tech just looks flat out better because the other team looks so bad. But I thought Gonzaga looked really good and hit really well, and you just outpitched and outhit them all weekend.
yeah, and they're a good team, good program. They made the NCAA tournament last year. Their RPI sucks right now because they're 0-4, but I think they were preseason picked to win the West Coast Conference, which I'm not saying that's like a loaded conference or anything, but for a mid-major, I think that'll wind up being a good RPI series for you once they get some wins under their belt. I was worried, dude. I was like on my couch ready for baseball season. Like, all right, let's go. First pitch, that guy triples off the wall. I was like, whoa, crap.
Yeah.
So they had some guys. Their leadoff hitter,
Yeah.
Apodaca, was really good all weekend.
Yep.
They had other guys that gave you fits. So I don't think that was a bad team that you just swept in 4 games. I think they're solid. And so to me, it felt like 3-1 would have been like about what you expect. That'd be good, but nothing to write home about. 2-2 would have been disappointing, and 4-0, which is what you did, I'm really happy about.
Yeah, and the hope is that they are legit and are going to have the season they had last year and will be in the NCAA tournament and provide you with RPI depth that you did not have from the non-con last year. Kyle, are you staying at a Holiday Inn Express?
I am.
Big Hen. Man, what a pull. He recognized the headboard from a Holiday Inn Express. That is impressive.
Well, this says IHG on it, but I'm at a Holiday Inn.
Yeah, Holiday Inn Express is an IGH hotel. Yeah. I'm staying at a Holiday Inn Express next weekend. That's funny. I'll be in Houston, Texas.
A couple other notes on the baseball recap.
Yeah.
I think you had, was it 11 errors on the weekend?
Yeah, and 6 on the final day. Now, 3 of those were catch interferences from the same batter. I think he didn't hit his swing.
That sucks.
But still, you had some middle infield issues, and I think a lot of that's just going to happen through the first month with rotating middle infielders, 1, and 2, freshmen playing, high-level collegiate baseball for the first time.
On the third time that the same batter gets a catcher's interference, can you ask the be like, hey?
Yeah, there has to be something in the swing.
So anyway, I'm not.
Catchers.
What?
There's 2 different catchers.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, I think that total number of errors, because those catcher's interference do count as an error, I think that's a little bit inflated. And I saw some good signs defensively. You made some good plays in the outfield on some pretty well hit balls, and you turned 2 a lot more frequently than I remember you doing it last season, which is a good sign. So I'm not like totally out on the defense or anything yet. They certainly have to clean it up, but I saw some positive signs too.
Ben DiNucci driving Seattle. XFL. What? Ben DiNucci.
Who cares?
You don't like the XFL?
No.
Who else was big for you this weekend? You're looking at the lineup. Obviously, you just talked about it a little bit, but offensively, Bazell, Harrelson, Gavin Cash, Nolan Hester, deep and wide is this offensive power, I think. And I would say you have about 12, 13 quality Big 12 bats that you're going to have to figure out.
Now, Rob, set aside what we saw in this 4-game sample size
and
go back in time a week. If I told you that the 2 best bats on this team are Hudson White and Owen Washburn, you could maybe nitpick that statement and maybe make a case for somebody else. But generally, I think we could accept that.
Yeah, for sure.
They went a combined 2 for 21. So you got, I'm not going to say nothing from them, but pretty close to nothing from them.
Right.
So imagine when those 2 guys are back to what we saw at the end of last season, what we know they can be in the Big 12. you could have like a absolutely legit 1 through 9.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting. Is what could the numbers look like if everybody else can maintain? Which, like, I think Gavin Cash is hitting like 667 right now. That's not going to continue. But if you get that from him, Harrelson, Ty Coleman had a great weekend. Once Washburn and White come around, you're just going to be stacked top to bottom.
Yeah, and you could argue you're already in the stack territory with 6 good bats. You look back when you go to Omaha, it really is 1 through 7, 1 through 8, 1 through 9 that is productive. At least 7 or 8. And in the Big 12, you really have to have that.
Well, and to your point about the depth, Zach Vuletic, your favorite player, has not been a staple in the starting lineup this season.
Right.
They stuck him in a huge spot in the 9th inning, game 4 against Gonzaga, and all he does is like lead off double and gets you going that inning so that you can win the game.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he might not be one of your 9 or 10 best hitters, but yet he can still do that in a clutch spot, super encouraging to me. Because last year, you just didn't have that depth throughout the lineup. There were certain spots where you hit the line, you're like, okay, this inning might be about to come to a close, and I don't feel that way about this team.
I do want to say one. I feel like we're overplaying the Vuletic is my favorite player bit a little bit. I think that.
I think I've only mentioned that twice, but point taken. People clearly don't like my bits or content, so I'll stop.
No, people love your bits. That's the problem.
No, they hate it. They've made that very clear.
Excuse me. All right. Western Illinois is a program that plays baseball. They did not look good the first weekend. Texas Tech looked very good. I would assume, and you know what happens when you assume, if all 4 of these games get played, Texas Tech should win another 4.
Over under 3.5 wins this weekend.
I would say over.
I think so too. I think this is one of those bad loss if you lose.
Yes. Maybe not the same as like Merrimack, but like UConn level a couple of years ago. Now, UConn has been very good since they played here, but they were not very good that year.
Yeah. Especially if this depth, both pitching and at the plate, is what we think it is.
Yes.
This is the kind of team where, okay, if one guy's struggling, you make a change mid-game, you should be able to just like totally out-talent these guys. And it's at your home ballpark. Like, that's not if you're playing a bad team at one of these neutral side tournaments, okay, but like you should win all 4 of these.
When do you want to start seeing some consistency 1 through 9 position wise? Besides catcher, because I think you're going to play multiple catchers every year.
I would like this. When you go to Houston, I think I would like you to stick with a lineup for that weekend. And you don't have to be locked into that lineup after Houston, but I would want to see guys in the same spot, same place on the field, same place in the batting order, 3 games in a row against high-level competition, see how it goes. And if you want to make another change, you have more non-conference games in between then and Big 12 play. So I don't want to just constantly tinker and then have your first draft, your first iteration of what you think the final lineup is going to be when you start Big 12 play. I'd like to, have time to edit the first draft, as it were. And so I would kind of like to use that weekend as a test run because that's Big 12 level competition. It's at a neutral side. I think you can learn a lot. So I would pick your first 9 guys, your 3 starting pitchers, and say, y'all are in this spot on the depth chart right now. That could change after this weekend. You have something to prove, and see how that goes. Would be how I'd approach it.
I don't know if we mentioned this, but the doubleheader moving from 2 on Saturday to 2 on Friday.
Okay. Oh, it's still a 4-game series, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but the doubleheader is just on Friday instead of Saturday.
Gotcha. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
That's 4. Yeah.
Well, I thought I might have seen something about a Thursday, but I guess today's Thursday?
Today is Thursday.
Long week.
I played Wednesday bumpers for the first hour of today's show. I'm caught up. We did an 80s versus 90s music question today on the radar.
90s.
Easily. Some guy was defrauding the band Fastball, and I just thought that was uncalled for. The Way is one of my favorite songs.
I'll be honest with you, partner. I don't know what Fastball or The Way is.
Well, Fastball's the band, The Way is the song.
Yeah, I put that together, but I don't know what those things are.
Without ever knowing the way.
Do it in a Christopher Walken voice.
I can't. I can only say stab him in the neck with a soldering iron. That is a terrible Christopher Walken. I used to could do Christopher Walken, but I just cannot find I can't find it today. I want to say two things, Kyle. These are my final thoughts, and I'll allow you to give your final thoughts. You're wrong about the XFL. The XFL has three things that the NFL should do immediately. One, fix the kickoffs. The XFL does kickoffs where everyone's in a line like this, and they kick the ball off from back here, and they catch it back here, but everyone's in the middle of the field right together. Eliminates the injuries. That's what the NFL has tried to figure out forever. Do that. A. Two, the three-point conversion. You allow yourself to go back a little further and get a three-point conversion, better than a two-point conversion. And then C.
D.
D. No, I did 1, 2, 3.
I know that's the reference, though. In Home Alone,
Oh, I got you.
Spike says 1, B, and 4, or A, 2, and D, I think.
Yeah. And then D, in the fourth quarter, you can convert a 4th and 15 as the onside kick.
I'm fine with potential rule changes, but the market will speak for itself that the NFL doesn't have to do anything the XFL is doing, and it'll have 100 times the viewers.
Well, yeah, but when the NFL saw what the USFL was doing and being successful with, they stole it, i.e. the two-point conversion. I think there are things that the XFL does that I think could improve the NFL product.
I don't think we have to start up these spring football leagues to get the NFL to change their rules. We've had the USFL, we've had the XFL 3 times now. We had the AF, and this is – don't we have the USFL again? We're on like our 7th iteration of the alternate NFL, and they all pale in comparison.
Yeah, but it's already happening, and I like these rules is all I'm saying.
I want the old XFL back. I want
the old XFL.
I want He Hate Me,
yeah,
and I would watch that. I'm not watching the NFL light, though. That's stupid.
Instead of the kickoff, they would run for the ball. And some guy tore his ACL doing it.
A guy broke his collarbone on the very first one. It was like the XFL's big debut. They're like, watch what we're going to do instead of the coin toss. And the guy broke his collarbone.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Put some damn respect on Tommy Maddox.
Do I still have a pulse? Let's play football.
Is this or is this not the XFL? Yes, it is.
Who did Tommy Maddox play for in the Super Bowl?
In the Super Bowl? And
who did he lose to? Do you want the year?
Good question. Yeah, give me the year.
1995 season, 1996 Super Bowl.
Falcons? No, they were 96, 97, or 97, 98 maybe.
I think so.
I was young, man, but they also had, what was his name? Something Chandler was their quarterback.
The Falcons? When they went to the Super Bowl?
I think so.
Michael Vick?
No, he didn't go to the Super Bowl. I'm talking about like late 90s. It was something Chandler? Maybe?
That's what Big Hen says.
I'd trust Big Hen.
I thought Michael Vick went to the Super Bowl.
He knows birds. No, he lost in an NFC championship to the Eagles. But I think that was the only time he made the NFC championship even.
Maybe so.
XFL. That was
Tommy Maddox first.
Jeff Brom.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to your Maddox question.
Pittsburgh Steelers
That's what I was going to guess.
against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess the Super Bowl MVP for that? No chance.
Emmitt Smith.
Larry Brown.
Wow.
I'd let you give some Viking Super Bowl trivia, but I don't think they have any.
Oh, they do have some Super Bowl trivia.
Good ones.
They've never made the Super Bowl.
Okay.
The Minnesota Vikings have the 7th best all-time win percentage of any team in the NFL, 32 teams. They're in the top quartile, basically the top 20% of the entire league.
Yeah.
All 6 teams ahead of them in winning percentage have multiple Super Bowls, and the Vikings are the only team in the top 10 that doesn't have at least one. So the Vikings are like really good at going 9-7, 10-6, and like they've never really been a really bad team in my lifetime. They had a couple down years when they had like no quarterback. They're just like they're too steady, you know. They'll never be a high-end successful team, but they'll also never be dreadful.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's better than being a Cowboys fan.
Is it?
Yeah, I've seen the Vikings win more postseason games.
I've
seen
seen
the
3
Cowboys
Super
when you were like in diapers.
I did not wear diapers at 9 or 10.
Were you that old when they got their last one?
Yeah, it's 97. I
thought it was 95.
was born in 89. Well, 96. Sorry, 96. So I was 7. That's still not diaper age.
You were about to turn 7 later that year.
Okay. All right.
So you were 6 and you were
Tomato. That's the
potato tomato. I apologize. This is my final thoughts. I apologize for making the Zach Vuletich joke. I won't ever do that again.
Big Hint says, Rob, please explain the Arlington logo. Well, this is a cowboy hat, and he's an outlaw, and then this is a bandana. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
If Fort Worth had an XFL team or Lubbock had an XFL team, I'd probably be all over it.
What would the Lubbock XFL team be named?
I think you go with you could be like the Rockers and make it Holly themed.
Yeah.
You could go Prairie Dogs.
Cotton Kings. No.
Cotton Kings. Crickets. I'm fine with all those.
The
anything that pays homage to the great city of Lubbock.
Yeah. The hub city.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want them to be like the Tigers. Like, okay, what does that have to do with Lubbock? The Wildcats.
What about the Haboobs?
No.
No.
We need to focus on the positives.
Hey. Great minds. Stevens thinking about boobs just like me. He would be, huh? All right, do we have anything else? I think I'm done.
Do you accept my apology?
What did you apologize for?
The Zach Vuletich joke?
Oh, no, I just think I don't want people to just, think I'm, just like him because he wears tight pants. It's just awkward, personally.
No, you like him because he hits leadoff doubles in the 9th when you need it.
Right. He does have the tightest pants in the Big 12.
But who's your favorite player on the Matadors? Do you remember that guy on the Matadors?
Yeah, Quadzilla. I don't remember his name. That dude has massive legs. Yeah.
His shorts couldn't even, like most people's shorts, hang down.
Yeah. No, there was no room.
His shorts couldn't even go over his thighs. It was crazy.
Yeah, quads. Yeah.
I mean, isn't your quad like your thigh?
Yeah, but thighs is, I don't know, I just would prefer to say quads. Then it's like, like a manly compliment. Not saying he has thunder thighs.
Nice quads, bro.
Yeah, this boys being boys, man. Complimenting the quads and
there's nothing wrong with that.
Just appreciating the male form. I think there's an appropriate time for all of that.
Jeebus, is it 10:45?
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh.
Name them the Joey Maguires. Oh, that's what I tried to click that one. I need to go to bed, man.
I need to iron my clothes and pack my suitcase.
Yeah, the quad squad. What's up? Gassing up legs with the boys, man. Did you say iron your clothes?
Yeah.
Nice. Did you have to request an ironing board? Or do they provide that?
No, it's in the closet.
Okay.
I was looking pretty fly earlier today, honestly.
You do a fit
I
check
should have put it
for tomorrow?
in game day threads.
That's what I just said, yeah.
I couldn't hear you because the audio only goes one way and you were...
Are you trying to claim that I was interrupting you after I started speaking first?
I don't know. That's probably just another one of those bits I do that people hate, so I won't go there.
You're so sensitive, dude.
I retract the assertion.
People say I'm sensitive. You're the sensitive one. Remember episode 1 when the Gauchos were only going to do 30 minutes episodes? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yeah, dude, how do we do 3 episodes a week and fill 2 hours?
Yeah.
It's like, here's how, because we're talking about like playing Oregon State in Las Vegas for no reason. That's how.
And quads.
Quad squad, yeah.
And you are nailing celebrity impressions. Is there one impression you feel like you're good at?
What do you mean I'm nailing celebrity impressions?
Well, you nailed the Christopher Walken impression.
Oh.
Forget that happened. It's one of the biggest laughs we've ever had on the pod.
I do, but I thought that was because it was like so bad that
it was bad.
Well, then, yeah, make up your mind.
I was being facetious, Kyle. Do you know what sarcasm is?
I do good. Yeah, it's not the same as facetiousness. Common misconception. People think those are synonymous.
Kyle explaining.
I mean, you asked. See, this is what I'm talking about. You tried to belittle me, and then when I will actually, you're like, oh, there he goes again. It's like, you're the one insinuating I'm a dumbass. And so then when I correct you, then it's like, oh, hey, you didn't have to do that, man. Come on.
I didn't. I said 2 different things. I said I was being facetious. I said, do you not know what sarcasm is?
And I didn't say that you conflated the two. I said that people conflate the two.
Oh, okay. You weren't insinuating that I was conflating.
Sorry, you misinterpreted that. You love that kind of apology just as much as my wife. I'm sorry you're upset.
Like gaslighter.
Gaslighter.
That's the classic gaslighting, is putting it on the other person to feel the need for your apology.
Yeah, but I do it
on purpose.
I'm being facetious when I do
That's
it.
Classic gaslighting. Yeah.
Oh God. Are you gonna be okay, man?
I'm fine.
Okay.
We're fine. Everything's fine. What were we just talking? What were we trying to do there?
Oh, you said I was good at celebrity impressions, but not really.
Yeah, but I feel like we were like.
Oh, you asked if I did a good celebrity impression.
Oh, is there one you are good at?
I can do a good like Scott Stapp when I'm doing karaoke.
Yeah. Yo, those are good ones. Like a good hinder.
Yeah.
Similar voice.
Yeah, kind of. If you can do Scott Stapp, you can basically do Eddie Vedder.
Yeah. If you know the words. Of course, you don't really need to know the words.
Yeah, you just.
Yeah.
Dave Matthews is kind of that way.
Yeah.
It's like speaking of, you're talking about like gooses or geese honking.
Yeah.
That's what Dave Matthews. He's
Speaking of 90s music. What is his live album called? Something about a monkey?
Oh shoot, I don't know.
Whatever. How about that Rob Thomas, huh? Matchbox 20.
Yeah, I know who Rob Thomas is.
He just gave me a blank look.
Dude, I feel like if somebody wants to hate this podcast, we kind of give them a lot of ammo. I was listening and they were just doing Dave Matthews impressions.
No, somebody said, Big Hint said this was a top 3 episode.
Like, yeah, that's fair. Well, I'm just saying, but Big Hen likes us. But if you wanted to
right.
come on here and hate us, then
yeah.
we give you a lot of ammo. Mostly me. I'll wear that.
No, I put out fair amount of hateability.
It's clear that
you're immensely hateable, but
yes, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say that.
That has been very clear over the last week or so.
Somebody wants more blister. Chase wants more blister talk.
I'll put a picture of the blister in the Discord.
Ryan wants to go till midnight. We just passed 2 hours.
Should we?
What time is it? Do you do marathon? I could break out my Scooby-Doo and Shaggy impressions.
Oh, hit me with Shaggy. Oh, I was thinking the musician rapper. You said
no, like yeah. Like
Ruh-roh, Raggy.
We gotta get out of here. They're gonna make us into a shish kebab. Zoinks. Ruh-roh, Raggy.
That's your best impersonation.
Yeah, probably. I think that would be up there. Oh, Blister in the Sun. That's a great song.
Blister in the Sun.
Yeah, that's a good one. Chase says just another hour and 8 minutes. We can make it. You know, one day we should do a charity stream and try to go like 12 hours or something.
We could do it if we really open Pandora's box and like debated stuff. I feel like you and I don't do a ton of Skip Bayless debate crap, but if we wanted to, we could.
There are times when we cross the threshold, but I feel like we try to stay out of it. The first time we talked Pac-12 and you wanted to go to the Pac-12, I feel like that was when I got the rowdiest argument-wise.
Yeah.